Good morning, everyone. I'm Kevin Allen, and I'm joined by my usual broadcast partner, former NHL defenseman Tom Laidlaw. Played 11 seasons with the New York Rangers and Los Angeles Kings. This is the Laidlaw and Allen Report. We come to you twice a week to talk all things hockey, but today it's a very special day. It's kind of like Christmas in March. It's the NHL trade deadline. If you're in Canada, you take the day off. You play hooky. You gavel coverage on the sports networks like it's a political convention.
It wasn't like, I'll tell you, it wasn't like Christmas when I got traded. So it's a little different view for the players, but
no. Well, I think this year's theme has been just about all the major websites have done stories on players, how they feel about all that, and having to sweat through this and all that kind of thing. So it's real easy to us. I mean, the fans are just playing fantasy sports. It's no different than with their fantasy teams. They want to get if you're a rebuilding team, you want to get prospects and picks. And if you're a contending team, you want to get that piece that you're missing. But that's why it's an exciting day. I think, by the way, that the NHL probably better than all other major sports has taken advantage of the popularity of trade deadlines. Even though if you think about it, it really doesn't make sense for all the assets that people give up, for rentals and everything else. But boy, this, you'd hate to be without that. This is a big part of the NHL season.
I know. And it's a pressure on the general managers, right? And you know what's interesting too, across all the sports, so much more leverage on the player side of where they're going, by the star players, not all the players, but those elite players. You saw Deshaun Watson go from Houston to Cleveland and pretty much control that, especially with all his legal issues going on. He goes out and gets the biggest contract in the history of the National Football League. So Giroux, Philly was in control where he went. So it's interesting how now that's kind of shifted, because it was not like that in the past at all. You had it didn't matter who you were. You had really no control. Really, the only guy I think that had control of where he got traded and the timing of it was Wayne Gretzky when he got traded. But again, that really wasn't like a contractual thing that he got going in his favor. It's just he was Wayne Gretzky.
So you were miffed when you got dealt?
Yes, I wasn't playing well, to be honest with you. So like the other trade deadlines leading up to that, I was not worried at all that I was going to get traded. Maybe that was naive by me, but I wasn't. That trade deadline, I was not playing well. And Phil Esposito had taken over. He built a reputation to be a trader. Phil. We all stayed at the practice rink till 3:00 when the trade deadline was. And when I left, I had not gotten a call from anybody that had been traded. So when I went home, I thought, I dodged the bullet there, because again, I just really wasn't playing that well. And then when I got home, I found out that I had been traded. So
who told you, and what did you say?
It was my ex-wife, my wife at the time, had gotten a call from Phil, and she was from Rye, so she was pretty shocked as well and not too happy about it. She had family all here and everything. So she was crying when I got to the door. And so I'd gotten the news, obviously, that I'd been traded. But I just walked up. I really didn't know what was going on, because I thought I had not been traded. So when she's standing at the door crying, I'm thinking something else has gone wrong. So when she told me that I got traded to Los Angeles, she told me, and it's funny what kicks in, for me anyways, your ego kicks in, and you want to make sure you're getting traded for a good player, right? It'd be embarrassing to get traded for a bag of pucks or whatever. So she couldn't remember the name of the player. I remember Marcel Dion. She said it's some big goal scorer. So I'm thinking at the time it's Bernie Nichols, because Marcel Dion was kind of past his prime a little bit. So I'm thinking, okay, that's pretty good. Bernie's a good player. And then I found out later on it was Marcel Dion. And no disrespect to him, he had a tremendous career, but he's pretty old at that point when he got traded. So it's funny. It's
well, you weren't a spring chicken either, though.
I was I was 29. But I was, like I said, I had the bad back problem and everything too. So yeah, I was. I was wondering. That's a good point for you. I was wondering a little bit what they were thinking, because I really had not played well. My back, being in the lineup with a bad back. So it is funny though. You think back about the things that go on in your head when you get traded, like the ego parts kicking in. You wonder who you get traded for.
Yeah, I know that. I did that book with the Bernie Nichols recently, and I know when he got traded, he was very interested in who when the Kings traded him, who they got back, and it was Granato and Sandstrom, and he felt better about that. Those were two players on the rise. Yeah. And then, of course, he got traded in Edmonton, and it was in the Messier deal. So he didn't feel bad about that. Yeah. Although one of his, he had hoped he was going to, the Messier deal had been rumored for a while, and he had hoped that he was going to end up being able to play with Mark Messier, which was thing. As it turned out, he was part of the deal coming the other way. So it was, interesting in that regard. But I want to get into the Rangers, but before we do, let's talk a little bit about the Claude Giroux situation, because I found this really fascinating, and it really brings up a lot of issues. You and I have talked a lot about how the game has changed since you played, particularly with regard to treatment of players, and so forth. And you just brought up that players have more say now through no trade clauses than they've had in the past, and yet they still get dealt. And I think GMs, this is my take on this, GMs, even though they give those no trade clause, they always feel that ultimately the guy will leave and go somewhere. But what they don't count on is, someone will, as you said, use it like they have Thor's hammer. I'm in charge here. And that's what happened in the Claude Giroux situation. He wanted to play in Florida. If he was going to go, he wanted to go to Florida, and the Flyers wanted to have a bidding war. They wanted big assets out of this. And I think Bill Zito figured it out. I mean, he hasn't said anything about all this, not that I've seen anyway. But I think he realized it was that he was the only game in town. And he could have just kind of held out, because he had said that he wasn't giving up another first round pick. I mean, he's already in the 2025 with his giving up his first round picks.
Oh, I didn't realize that. Wow.
Yeah, the pick he gave to the Flyers is 2025.
Oh, I didn't know that. Wow.
Yeah. Now, but he said he wasn't going to do that, and then at the very end he did. But what was the Flyers' options? They really had none. Like, he was being, I think, a good guy. Like he could have just said,
I know. But let me ask you this, though. So let's say he figures out that Giroux wants to go to Florida and only Florida. See, my problem with that trade is we've had this discussion before about the Rangers. Now you bring this guy in. Florida is one of the best teams in the National Hockey League right now, even before the trade. I mean, I think it really helped the Sherratt trade. Getting him really helped a lot defensively. But I kind of wonder, like, he's almost like, we're kind of being forced to take him, because if it gets out that he wanted to come here and we lose in the first round, and I didn't get him, everybody's like, why didn't you get Giroux? I don't know if it's that he didn't want him, but did he want him as badly as maybe? Oh,
yeah, he did. I mean, Bruce is on that team. They were teammates. There had been a lot of discussion and a build-up. I think the Panthers are genuinely excited about having him. He's a playoff guy, as you know.
Is he still really, though, a playoff guy? The thing I liked about him was he was a skill guy that played hard, played aggressive.
Right. That's what he still is. I mean, he's had a good season. His team's been horrible.
Yeah.
Are you going to give him the Eichel treatment? Because don't do that. He's really a hard-edged player.
I cannot give him the Eichel treatment. I can't do that, because he has a track record of being competitive.
Well, what makes you think he's not that? I mean, he's never, I watched him this year, and I thought he was just a strong player. I mean, he's older, but, But
okay, so now here's the negatives about it. So I know there's a lot of positives. He's still a real good player. I get that. But so this team in Florida was one of the best teams already in the National Hockey League. Now he's going to go in there as a top 6 forward, if not a top 3 forward. Right. So somebody now has to move out of that position.
They did. They traded him to the Rangers. Vetrano. They moved the guy out. So everybody just readjusts.
Okay. All right.
And Verana's gone.
And he's a good player too, man. He scored his empty net goal last night. But he's good. You can tell he's a player. He was undrafted too. I didn't realize that with Ron.
Yeah, he is. I mean, he is a what you see, what you get player. Like, I don't think you're getting him and say, wow, he could develop into a 30 goal scorer. Right. He's a 15, 18 goal scorer, good player.
Speed too. Adds a lot more speed to the lineup.
Right. Yeah, he's got some wheels and all that kind of stuff.
All right, so you're bullish on this trade for Giroux then. You like
it? I do like it a lot. I like it because, and again, I'm going based on what I read. The players are thrilled by it. They were excited about getting Claude Giroux, and now you're going to tell me that they're all lying. But
I didn't say they were all lying, but I mean, so some guy, okay, let's okay, but he's better than Verona, right? So it's not like he's just jumping into that spot. He's going to take away ice time from somebody else that's getting more ice time now, right? So it is. I get you that it's players moved out and he moves into that spot, but ice time is going to be different now for those guys. For some guys that have been getting more ice time on the power play, penalty killing, he's going to get less ice time. Maybe that's fine. Maybe they're okay with that. But
yeah, because he was going to get more ice time than Vetrana got. So.
Yes.
Yeah.
Drew will get more. If he doesn't, I'll be surprised. I'm not.
Yeah.
I'm a coach.
No.
More. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, I think it's a good deal. I think in that East there, you got to keep up with the Joneses. I mean, the Tampa Bay Lightning. I just, I think we don't give Julian Brisebois enough credit because he said, this quote, I looked it up. It's a couple months old, but he said, "Look, we're trapped. We got no money. We'd have to move people off our roster in order to make a move. And I like our team.
Right.
I'll look around, and if we can upgrade, we'll do it."
Right.
And lo and behold, some pretty big moves.
Yeah, I know. Who did they add? What was it they added?
Well, they got a Hagel from, and then they just picked up that Paul kid from Ottawa. That's your kind of player. He'd be on Team Laidlaw.
Yep.
So, they'll be harder to play against, and I just think they're doing what they can.
I like that. So if I'm the teams that we think are the contenders. So there's Florida, Tampa, Carolina, Rangers, Colorado, Calgary. Are we putting Vegas in that category?
I'm not, but I'll tell you who I'm putting in, and to me, they're the best team in the West by far, the Calgary Flames.
Yeah, I agree. So
I don't think Colorado's nearly as good as.
Oh, really? I thought they were closer. You don't think they're even close? So that means then Colorado's got to be doing something today.
Well, they got to do more. I mean, they've already done quite a lot. But they'll do some more. Did you like Florida's move of Sherratt?
You know what? I don't know that player as well. From all the reports, like personally seen him that much. From all the reports I've heard, he is that good, fourth, fifth, sixth defenseman. Like really that steady guy, a little bit more physical.
I think he's a little more than that. He's a shutdown guy. I think he's a 4.
Okay.
But he's got experience. He seems to play best in the bigger game.
Right. So did you see the game yesterday Georgiev played against Carolina? Carolina looked unbelievable last night. Played really well.
No,
Georgiev is really the backup for the Rangers. Shut them out and made some big time saves, like 45 shots against.
I guess we're going to the Rangers now. All right. So
I'm sorry.
Rangers. All right. Well, let's talk about the Rangers because I wanted to get into this because to me it's really surprising. And maybe less so to you. I mean, you kind of predicted this. So here we are. All the big guys are gone.
Yeah.
On defense, except Chychrun. Now, all along they had the best group of assets in order to get Chychrun. So does this mean they're going to get Chychrun, or did they just decide what you did? We'll just go with where we got because there's one other team that hasn't made a move either. Carolina Hurricanes.
And I think our old buddy Don Waddell was quoted as saying he won't make a move. He really can't make a move. Or maybe you quoted him on that. I can't remember.
Well, he can make a move for any player who's $1.8 million or less. Right. And he wants a defenseman. And then you'd have to retain salary, which could get him with $3.5 million. But the guy that seemed like a good fit, Braun, I hear that's not the Carolina's not interested in him.
I tell you, Carolina looked good last night. I mean, I haven't watched them all that much, but man, they're a fast team. They're a physical team. I think they've got some pretty good defensemen there already. I don't know. I see again. Yeah, I'm in that category. If I'm looking at Carolina, I'm the coach and I'm general manager. Now you're watching them every day, so you're able to pick the team apart a little bit more and see where the weaknesses are. But I'm based on yesterday, I watched that game and going, wow, why would I want to change that team at all?
Well, I mean, there's a guy that did a study that shows that, if you don't have 7 or 8 defensemen in the playoffs, you're likely to be in trouble because, there's a lot more physical play. Guys were getting banged up.
Right.
So and I think that's what Don was saying is I'd like to get another defenseman because they lost D'Angelo.
Just got back yesterday. Was his first game back.
The first game back,
Yeah.
but he was out for an extended period, and the jockeying for position in that division is important for playoff matchups.
Yeah, definitely is. Yeah.
So you wanted to do that. So, but I'm really curious to see what happens. I've talked to general managers who said that the Rangers have been in there swinging, and yet they have not come up with anything. So, I guess we can conclude, this is really wrong. That
sorry, Kev. This Ron Greshner is a brilliant man. I don't know who he is, but he's a very intelligent man. 7 or 8 defensemen are one Tom Laidlaw. He says he must be like some hockey guru or something.
Yeah, that's true. I'm surprised that you're not so. I was going to say too. I'm surprised that you're not high on Sherrod because he's essentially you.
I know. Yeah.
Yeah.
To be honest with you, I just hadn't seen him play all that much. So that's
yeah. No, I think he's a good player. I think he's exactly what you want for the postseason.
So Rangers then they've been trying to get a lot of people.
So I'm basically just sort of extrapolating here, but it feels to me like Drury is saying, these prices are way too high.
Right. All right. Well, let me ask you then. So does Phoenix need a goaltender?
Yeah, they actually had been poking around at trying to get a young goalie. Yeah.
Right. So here's your trade. This is totally manufactured right here on this screen right now. So Georgiev, how good is he? Based on yesterday's game, he's a pretty good goaltender. He could be now. That's one game. You understand? He's had some ups and downs. So do you dare trade if you think you can find another quality backup goaltender for the Rangers? Do you trade Georgiev and try to get Chychrun, or is that enough even?
Are you talking about Georgiev straight up?
Yeah, Georgiev straight up.
Yeah, well, considering they're asking for 4 first-round equivalents, I'd say no, that won't get it done.
For Chychrun?
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
I did not.
4 first-round equivalents.
Wow. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I heard there's some question marks about him because he's had good years.
Yeah, I've heard that too, but I heard it from you. So,
and I did hear it from a scout. So that's right. I'll be honest.
I know actually that's to be true. I'm making light of it, but no one really kind of knows how good he is. But as I brought up the last time you brought this up, talking to GMs, when you mentioned that to them, what they care about, he's making under $5 million, and almost all of them said the same thing. Right. It is hard now to get anybody that you can count on to play 82 games that isn't in your top 4. That isn't making big money.
And it's 3 more years too, isn't it?
Well, this year and 2 more.
This year, 2 more.
And he's 23 years old. That's the other thing too.
We go back to the same thing. What are they doing trading him? Like if everybody else wants him for those reasons, then why do people
makes no sense whatsoever. But you look at the teams that want him, it's all the important teams.
Yeah.
It's the Rangers. Yeah. Like Steve Yzerman, he might have made the first call. He's rebuilding his team. He tried to go, but they want like a Sider or Lucas Raymond, and then he's not going to go there.
Yeah.
So
4 first-round equivalents. Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. Now the first-round equivalent thing also gives you some wiggle room. Like Georgiev isn't a first-round pick, but you can argue that he's a first-round equivalent.
See, I don't maybe they don't really want to trade him that bad. I would rather negotiate and get out there, say there's 10 teams interested in the player. What's your best offer?
Yeah.
I think when you start naming what you want, a lot of general managers do it. So maybe I'm wrong on this, but they say, okay, this is what we want. Now, are they just throwing that out there? See, to me, you could even be low. Maybe you could get more than I don't think that's the case with this player, but maybe you get more. Why are you limiting it to that? Maybe you can get more than that.
Yeah, but I think most times they do that. But I think what has happened is, they've this is my sense of what's happened here. People have come in with their offers, and the Coyotes have come back and said, if we're Florida, and this is not a real offer, this is a made-up offer, but I want Spencer Knight. And I want the real good Swedish center that you have now, and a first-round pick, and something else.
Yeah.
And so that's how people have sort of figured out what they're asking for. So
Well, I'll tell you, after watching it again, I watched more closely yesterday because the trade deadline was coming up, and the Rangers defense. I mean, and Fox. I mean, listen, he's still Fox. He's still a good player, but they're not like they really got exposed a little bit yesterday by Carolina being a fast team in on the forecheck, hounding them down for the puck. The Rangers had a number of turnovers coming out of their own zone. So it really showed me more that although I think the Ranger defense will be better down the road, Fox will get better. Lindgren will get better. They're all going to get better. But right now, going into the playoffs with this group of defensemen, again, they're going to be good players down the road, but they probably do need it may be just not one defenseman they need. They maybe need a couple of defensemen, but
yeah. Well, they're there. I mean, who knows? There are other players out there. If you're just trying to get a rental, does it make any sense, for the, these lesser lights? And I don't mean that in a demeaning way. I just mean less than what you'd have to pay for the Giordano's or the Sherratts or any of those players.
Like you said, though, what else is out there? I mean, I'm sure there's other defensemen that are out there, but
the ones that are left that people are talking about are like Nicoletti.
I liked him when he was at the Islanders. He's available.
He played really well at the Islanders. He's just been subpar this year. He's at -33. Nobody else on the list.
I would take a flyer on him because I think he's shown how good of a player he can be.
Who would you? You would take him?
I'd take him.
Well, I'm not sure that he'll go for a higher than a third-round pick. Yeah. So, that's a real reasonable thing. And, they've got the cap space. He's a $5.5 million, but Yzerman will lead 2.7.
Oh, and that's just year left on that contract?
This is it.
Oh, man, that's the guy. See, if I'm the Rangers, I'd go for him because again, watching him play for the Islanders, I thought he was a really good player.
Well, it is interesting. I just wonder that if he got to Detroit and he found out that it wasn't, what they wanted him to do, it's just so different. Moritz Seider's the guy here. He's 20 years old, but he's the only point on the power play. He's the guy getting all the big minutes. And he's like king. So Letty got here and his role was completely different. So
I'd go for him. I like him a lot, especially you're not going to have to give up a whole lot. The contract's done at the end of the year. How about Chara?
Chara's another guy. He's out there that's being talked about. Justin Braun, but he's a right shot.
Yeah.
So now we're into that. We had that discussion last week: right shot versus left shot.
Chara from the Islanders to the Rangers. Would that ever happen?
I don't know. Well, I think it would if Chara wanted to do it because Lou Lamoriello is a really pro player. If Chara wanted to do that, and just I think he'd accommodate him. So, the Islanders. I guess Lou has to acknowledge they're done. I think you'll get a 5th-round pick for Zach Parise. I think you could send him to Dallas and to be back with Ryan Suter.
Clutterbuck, everybody's talking about him getting traded.
Yeah, Clutterbuck has a lot of fans around the league in terms of teams that like him.
That good 4th-line guy grinded out.
I think Colorado. I wouldn't rule them out. They've shown some interest as well. But it'll be interesting to see. Now we still have the Rangers also. They were supposedly in on forwards. The idea of getting a center, and they didn't mind term because they were looking ahead a little bit. But those guys are gone. Giroux didn't want to go to New York.
Right.
Pavelski re-signed. Hertl re-signed.
That's right.
Raquel is an offensive player, but
I don't think he really does. He help the Rangers that much? I don't know if he upgrades what they've
a
done.
lot of teams are interested in him. But I think come this time, you're just always trying to get more goals. You're trying to buy goals, but you don't really know who's going to score them in the playoffs. It's one thing to score, 30 goals or 25 goals in the regular season and come to playoffs when somebody's on you all the time.
And it always seems to be you get that guy. Remember in Washington when they had with Dominic Smith-Pelly there, and all of a sudden he started scoring goals. You go way back.
We had historically we've had Contos, John Druce.
John Druce, yes, I was thinking of him.
Yeah, guys that just have ended up being playoff heroes and scored a lot of goals. Which is always fun. But Yeah,
I just want to point out one more time, and it seems like this
yeah,
is a weekly thing now, that the power and scope of our show. So we reprimanded the Vegas Golden Knights, and they won 2 in a row. So
yeah. Well, they have struggled.
George can call me up and thank me for getting the team going.
Yeah. Well, you should send him a little note, because the Vegas Golden Knights are used to getting the notes. I mean, it was sad that I had to notify Stone and Petrangelo that they were no longer the power brokers.
It took them a little bit of time to get over it, but now they're back playing the way.
Yeah. It was really stunning. They were surprised to hear it.
Yeah,
that they were no longer in charge, and that it was Jack Eichel's team, and they were going to rise and fall based on whatever.
They have to learn to learn. See, I've learned that during the pandemic.
No. So that was very difficult to send that letter, and it was startling. I think their wives cried when they got that letter. So
they cried laughing, like, who's this Laidlaw guy?
Yeah. Anyway, we're just having some fun. Just getting back to the trade deadline too. I love Daryl Sutter's influence on his team. If you're a general manager and Daryl Sutter says, I think I'd like to have Toffoli, don't you go out and get Toffoli? And then he said, I'd really like to have Yarncroc. Then don't you go out and get Yarncroc? So I think that's sort of what happened there.
Yeah, I like that too. But you think about it, when they hired him, like, he probably would have said, or it would have been intimated that, listen, I'll come back and coach, but I'm going to have some input on what goes on with this team. And Treleving, his job's on the line there. Treleving, they have not done well, and you're bringing in a coach that's got a pretty good track record. So,
well, and what's interesting, and someone asked him why he was coming back and who he was coming back for, and he said, I'm coming back for Calgary. Which I really liked.
That is good PR too. That's good branding right there.
Well, it is good branding, but he's not Sutter says it the way he views it.
Yep.
So he's not a guy, he's not sitting around thinking, I'm going to put a positive spin on things. Yeah. He's going to say what he believes.
All right, the crack reporter, Susan, she's hard work once again. Does Fleury change his mind and go somewhere? Marc-Andre Fleury to Chicago.
Well, every indication is that Bill Guerin is at work, and that Fleury, if he hasn't talked to Guerin, is aware that Billy wants to bring him to Minnesota. And I heard this morning he's not opposed to that.
And they would have known each other from the Pittsburgh days too, right?
Well, that's exactly how it is. And Bill was very popular, and Fleury was very popular in Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
So, Craig Leopold is very active there.
Right.
I've kind of heard that he's not all that thrilled that, they've got to go this year, because next year they have all the money is coming off for the.
And I can't believe it would take that much to get Fleury out of Chicago, would it?
No. No, because there's no other suitors, because he won't, unless Fleury said, well, I'll play in Toronto, or I'll play in Edmonton.
Ooh.
I don't necessarily think he would do that, but
I don't think he'd say Edmonton, but he may say Toronto. If he wants to win, Toronto's got a better chance of winning.
Yeah.
Probably got a better chance of winning than Minnesota, don't you think?
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. This is shocking, but where do you think Minnesota is in terms of goal scoring?
Well, I'm going to guess pretty high up based on the way you're
saying. Third.
Oh, wow.
So, that's pretty impressive.
So the theory is then, okay, you bring Fleury in there. That's what they need, goaltending. What's your defense like there in Minnesota? I haven't followed them that much.
It's okay, but it could be better. That's an area of concern as well.
Because Fleury's got to be saying, he's a proud guy. I know he's already won cups and everything, but he's got to be saying, okay, if I'm going to go somewhere, I want to go somewhere if I feel like I really got a chance of winning, right? Why am I going to move again?
Yeah, but here's the thing. Do you think that Marc-Andre Fleury is done? I mean, not done, but that he's going to retire?
Well, there's a lot of places need goaltending, right? So I'm sure he's looking around and saying, okay, I can pick some places here, not just totally, pick them.
Yeah.
But he's got some places he could go play that are pretty interesting.
Yeah, I think he's implied that he's going to retire, but
right.
He's the guy that loves the sport.
Yeah, I know. just being in the he seems like the kind of guy he'd miss being in the locker room, right?
Just yeah, and I think like I've never understood the people that said, "Hey, I want to spend time with my family." Like in my opinion, and I remember talking to a minor leaguer. It was actually Robbie Ftorik's son, Sam.
Oh.
He was a long time minor leaguer, and he said, I don't understand when people say, you want to spend time with your family. He said, I spend more time with my family than the guy working 9 to 5 because, when I come home, he said, it's just me and my 5-year-old, so we're just hanging out all day, shooting pucks in the garage,
There's a player, and I won't mention his name because I don't know if he wants this story out, but I was told anyways, there's a former New York Ranger that was had retired and was home working. Called the Rangers up and begged for a job. He says, I don't care what you pay me. I just need to get out of the house and have something to do. Now, he was doing nothing, so he didn't have a good job to go to. So it's, but it's pretty funny the way he said it was, please just give me a job. So.
Yeah. If you're, there are times when you're on the road, but, like I spent a considerable amount of time of, 1 year, I was on the road 140 days early in my career.
Wow.
But I would argue that I spent more time with my family because when I was home, I was not just home, but I was just in my house.
Yeah.
So my kids were in and out. And when my kids were athletes in middle school and high school, sometimes there were games right after schools, I'd be the only dad there because they'd all be working till 5 or 6 o'clock. Yeah. And, I'd arrange my schedule so I could, I couldn't do it if I had a game, but like during the playoffs, but so I could go there. And when my son played college soccer, I drove all over the Midwest. I just made sure I'd get my work done early and, that kind of thing. So you can do it. You can do both. So
yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Yes. Wow. Oh, so my new favorite food store by far now is becoming H Mart, this Asian food store. Oh,
yeah. I've heard that. People have mentioned that to me. So
man, good stuff. A lot of health. You gotta be careful. A lot of sodium in some of the stuff. Have you ever used oyster sauce? Anything that you cook?
No, but I've just heard that somebody just mentioned the oyster. Yeah. Oh no, it was my wife was talking about. She made something. She made what's that Mediterranean dish? She made it with oyster mushrooms. That's what it was. Okay. So
yeah, I used it. I got some from H Mart. Apparently, it's a little high in MSG and sodium though, but I didn't use that much. But that really had the flavors. A lot of good flavors.
Well, if you're on a low sodium diet, and I'm certainly part of that, it's very difficult to stay under the just because people substitute salt for if they don't know how to flavor it. So you end up with a lot of salt and things. And, we were only supposed to all have 2,000.
You said that the other day, and I went and checked what mine is on my little app that I use, and it was like 2,000 or 2,500. Was it milligrams?
Yeah, and it's hard. Like if you get, I tried to buy some scallops, for example,
right.
And there shouldn't be sodium in scallops, but you buy them freeze flashed.
Yeah.
And when you do that, if you look, there's 400 milligrams of sodium in a serving.
But what if you rinse it off? Can you rinse that off?
They say you can't. I don't. My wife says the same thing, but when I'm reading on my thing, it says caution. Don't think you can rinse it off because my wife rinses all beans, and she always says because there's a lot. If you get a can of beans as opposed to cooking them, and the problem with cooking beans, as we move into the cooking show portion of our show, is I found that it's a lot of time. Like you got to soak those beans. Like I remember my grandma talking about that when I was young. About she'd always soak her beans the night before she'd cook them, and I always tried to cut that part of it out.
Yeah, I know. Yeah,
you can't.
I know. My mother, rest her soul, she turned out to be a very good cook. But at first, when I was younger, she was not the best cook. But she tried very hard. She wanted to make pork and beans. Yeah. So she did not soak the beans at all and didn't bother. I don't think I can't remember. I don't think she tested the beans. She may have tested the sauce and everything to get the flavor. So when we had the beans, it was like chewing gravel.
Yeah. Well, And I remember my grandma just, every like if you were having beans on Tuesday, Monday night,
Yeah, she's so good.
they'd be in the water, soaking. You got to soak those beans, So, but my grandma, the always bacon was the additive on.
Oh, I know. I was just thinking of that too. Put the bacon on top, put it in a little tray there, and the bacon on top of the beans.
Well, the green beans. My wife and I always talk about this. My wife likes crunchy, crisp green beans.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's steamed. So there's a little crackle when the fork goes into them.
Right.
And I like mine cooked down, is what they say, which is they're best when it's cooked down in bacon. Like it's been sitting all day in bacon.
Oh, your wife doesn't do that, though, does she?
Oh no, my wife's vegan, but but she didn't really like that even before she became vegan.
Right. Now, would you do your beans in an air fryer? You don't have an air fryer, do you?
Oh yeah, we do. We air fry a lot. I still say that air fried chicken with the skin on is as good as any fried chicken.
I know, but that skin's bad for you. A lot of trans fats in there, a lot of bad fats.
Yeah, there are trans fats, but from the sodium aspect too. If you buy fresh chicken, so
yeah.
But it's it's good with the skin on. So
yeah, definitely. I felt bad. I need to ask your opinion. Oh, two things I need to ask your opinion about. Okay, so I go from my march every morning to this place called Todd's Point. Beautiful beach there. And it's usually when the busy summer comes along, you're limited. You have to be a Greenwich resident to get in there, or you have to buy a special pass. But right now, you can go in and anybody can come in. But if you bring your dog, you're allowed to bring the dog, but you have to keep the dog on a leash. Big sign as you drive in the place. So a lot of people want to go to the beach and let their dogs run wild. So there's a lot of people on the beach, a lot of dogs. Now, is it something that I should let bother me? Or I love dogs myself, or do I just say, you know what, it's dogs? There's a lot of other things going on in the world. Just be quiet, Tom, and accept
it. Because when you go down there, and you're there at what time in the morning?
6 o'clock.
And so there's people out there with dogs.
Well, yes, they start to show up. So this one guy had his dog there, and the dog starts running towards me. Like I said, I love dogs. I just said to him, I said, listen, you're supposed to have it on a leash. Well, part of the problem was that he started getting an attitude. I mean, I guess maybe I had a little bit of attitude as well, but he goes, well, you're going to have to call the cops in. And I had a few other trace words for him. Maybe I lost my temper a little bit and told him that I wouldn't need the cops to do what I wanted to do to him. So
how did he react to that?
He says, well, you need to call the cops. I said, no, that dog comes near me, there'll be no cops. Yeah. I thought to myself after, the dog really wasn't threatening me. He was just a friendly dog running around. I'm thinking, Tom, just be quiet. Like, do I make a deal up? I don't know. Yeah.
Well, the problem is you don't always know. Yeah. Like, you haven't heard dogs in my house because I don't have dogs anymore.
Yeah, you told me the story,
Yeah, because my neighbor, my dog went in my neighbor's yard and got into a fight with their dog. And he basically told me in no uncertain terms, and I really didn't have a legal right to stand on because my dog, doesn't know boundaries. So he just
dogs don't know any different. Yeah.
No, they just went over, and to be honest, they probably wouldn't have ever fought again. Sometimes dogs just need to fight, and then they establish who's king, and then they go about their business. Right. Kind of the way it is in the NHL. So
yeah.
So anyway, so you didn't feel threatened by this dog?
No, I did not. I was more I guess I kind of had a bad mood. It was more the way he reacted to me, and he was probably reacting the way to me because of what I said to him. So then
was he afraid? Do you think?
Well, I said some things and I said them in a way that I didn't realize at the time, but looking back, my goal was to probably make him a little bit afraid. But
and was he afraid?
I think he was, yes.
Yeah. How old was he?
He's middle-aged guy, probably early 40s, whatever.
Yeah.
He needed to lose a couple of pounds, and I was educating him. I was trying to help him out to let him know that he needed to lose some weight.
But, yeah, I see. Okay. Yeah. And did he move away quickly?
Yes, he did. Yes.
Yeah. He went on his he went on his way.
And I'm thinking, I'm not going to call the cops. I'm going to waste the police time coming out because the dogs are running on the beach. So I'm saying to myself, Tom, just be quiet.
Yeah. Wow. That's it. That's interesting. You felt bad afterward, though, didn't you?
Well, I felt confused whether I should be even making an issue or I should just be quiet and move on. There's lots of other things going on in the world. It's dogs. So
Yeah, well, it is dogs, but I mean, sometimes was it a big dog?
it was a decent sized dog, yeah. And then like on the weekend, you go there. If I go there in the afternoon, the beach would be packed, and it's all people with dogs off the leash.
Yeah,
So it's like I'm thinking to yourself, and there's a huge one of those flashing lighted up signs when you drive into the place. Leash laws apply, and it's like
Right.
it's like $100 to $150 fine. So it's not like people don't know it. I almost get the sense that the dog people are looking for a confrontation with other people that don't want the dogs off the leash. Now,
Yeah.
that's just a sense I get, and maybe it's because I was looking for a confrontation as well. And then that's what I thought later. That was really more the confusion. Like, okay, Tom, should you even be concerned about that?
yeah, yeah. That's a tough one. You don't never know what a dog's going to do, and dogs tend to chase runners. And you were running, so
No, I wouldn't run. No.
so
See, and that's the thing. I don't even think I'm worried about the dog. I'm honest with you, I think it's more.
he broke the rules, and
He
you want
broke
to let him know.
Yes. I fall, and I am definitely one of those guys. Like, for instance, when I drive on the road, the 55-mile-an-hour speed limit is irrelevant to me. But if somebody else speeds, they're wrong. But I can speed.
Right. Yeah.
So I am
You have
definitely
special dispensation,
absolutely yes.
Yeah.
I can do I can do those things. They can't. So
right?
I'm allowed to break the law. They can't break the law.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
that's not a good thing, and we were aware of that. Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you, my main thing on speeding. My wife and I were on the Ohio Turnpike, and a guy, we were driving along, and a guy got impatient and wanted to pass a truck, and didn't look to see us coming up on his left, and slammed into us. Yeah, this was like a month ago.
Yep.
And we were actually in a rental, and that caused all kinds of messy deal. And for some reason, I almost never buy the insurance because your insurance is supposed to take it, but I did that day.
Right.
So that turned out to be most helpful.
Good.
But anyway, but we ended up having to spend the night in Ohio because they couldn't get us a new car. It was late in the day. It was Friday. The police officer was terrific about it. The guy left the scene.
Yeah, you told me that.
After slamming into us. And I asked the police officer how often that happens. And he said, more than you think. And he said, it's probably a guy that, has a record that doesn't, want to get added to it and everything else. But subsequent to that, I've noticed, and what he was doing, he was weaving out. Like, he had caught the traffic and he was trying to get past it. And, there was a lot of it. So we were all spread out. And now those guys just bug me beyond belief when I see up those things, just because I've been hit, I've been wronged.
I know.
So, I just think, what are you thinking? You're going like 75, 80 miles an hour, weaving in and out of traffic, just trying to move up two cars, The other good thing I shake my head over is there's this straightaway by my house it's a rural road, and it's a 50 mile an hour. And if you're driving 50, some guy will pass you, pass you, just ripping by, just madder and all get out because you've blocked his way. And then, 300 yards up the road, there's a light.
I know.
And then you pull up to the light, and he's sitting there, and then you just pull behind him. And you knucklehead, you would have gotten exactly the same spot you're in now, without.
It's funny. I am that guy. I'm not always that guy, but I get in a car for some reason. It's like, even if I'm in no hurry whatsoever, and I think what it is. We've talked about this before. Around here, I don't know what it's like in other places, but the people, for whatever reason, want to get in the fast lane. So there's 3 lanes, right? So there's the slow lane, the middle lane, and then the fast lane. Well, people want to drive along in that fast lane, just over the speed limit, right? So I almost get this. This is terrible. I'm getting the sense that they're doing it just to prove a point. Like it's almost always people in a Subaru. It's like, I'm going to get that guy with that big black Yukon. I'm going to slow him down. So of course now it's a mission on my part to get around him and go as fast as I can, where I'm in no hurry to get anyway. So
yeah, no, I know. I mean, it's just crazy, and I don't know how much you gain, and you're just screwing up your gas mileage.
Oh, I know. Oh, and blood pressure's just pumping too.
Yeah. No, I know.
I notice it because when I'm driving, I don't notice it, and obviously I get where I'm going. I realize, oh, Tom, you idiot, you did it again.
Yeah. Well, anyway, it's time to go. It's trade deadline day, which is like Christmas morning. Tom and I will be on other podcasts today, and we're going to be the guests in the Hockey Buzz. I don't know what time yet, but that's going to be running pretty much all day. I think from 11 till 4 o'clock. Be talking trade deadline, and Tom and I will pop into that. But if you want to read my stuff, I'm at DetroitHockeyNow.com and also HockeyBuzz.com.
And again, if you want to listen to the radio version of this show, you can go to radio.co at 365 Sports. Again, that's radio.co at 365 Sports. Have a good trade deadline day, and we'll see everybody on Wednesday.